Hello everyone, welcome back to the KSP Community Career. Hope you're having a great day. This is Grace Research. Their probes and stuff, their stations, they're all on the surface now, and they got all three of them actually out there. I got another one over there about 9.1 kilometers away, and then I think there's another one over there, 12.1 kilometers away. So they're in like this triangle pattern where they can get different perspectives, and they're measuring things, right? But I wanted to also take a look up at the sky here. That's Minmus right there, okay? And Minmus, we're coming right now, okay? We're coming over there. So this video is all about the Minmus joint mission, and it is a very long mission, and it is involving a lot of different RPOs. But before I get into that, I wanted to show you, I actually have some experimental computers on Grace Research's stations as well. Two of their stations have my custom, my makeshift prototype, if you will, seismic accelerometer study baked into the base along with my custom computer. I went ahead and did a roll, roll the dice, if you will, RNG, be with me, on the Discord. I always do all of these types of tests and checks and things like that publics for everyone to see. When it's for my own stuff, I announce it ahead of time, and then I do the roll after that. And I passed this roll that I needed to do for being able to understand how this prototype technology works, being able to recognize when data is valid and when it's not, etc. We've been on the surface now for about 12 days or so total with all of our equipment. This one here has only been on the surface for 8 days. It's relatively new. This is the latest one I placed. So this one's only been down for 8 days, but we have the 4 SSF rockets, which only 2 of them were actually launched. The other 2 were simulated because, again, we demonstrate and then we simulate, so we don't have to do the same things over and over again on multiple part missions. But anyway, I've got 6 of my custom little accelerometer things, and that was enough for me to at least roll a little bit of dice with some pretty low odds, but I managed to get that. So I want to take a look at the Space Center really quick and tell you what the consequence of rolling that is. All right, back at the Space Center, and I have 90.4 science. Okay, and 90.4 science is enough for me to unlock the landing node, because my role that I took was whether or not I had enough understanding to unlock this part. This is the C seismic accelerometer. It is an experiment that takes quite a long time to run. It's going to take a long time to transmit data and stuff. This is a 14-day, 4-hour experiment, so it's basically a 15-day experiment. It's biome specific when you are landed, and it's kind of valid for almost everything. So what I'd like to do is take this experiment, this long-term duration experiment that I've been running with my other probes, some of which have been on the surface for almost 20 days now. I'd like to go ahead and take the knowledge I've learned from that and unlock this. And we also have some new landing struts, which I might look at. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to need it. We're going to Minmus, so we don't really need new ones, but landing in other places, yeah, probably. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the research button on this, and then I'm going to buy this double C seismic accelerometer. So that's $8,200 from my bank account there, okay? But that's going to let me place that experiment down on our Minmus joint mission that we're going to be doing starting today. So first thing I'm going to do is go to Mission Control. Kerbal Kind Achievement Records, yes. We're going to go to Explore Minmus Probe. This is the government saying they want me to go. And we're going to make sure that our vessel is designated as a probe. And we're going to go for this, right? We're going to fly by Minmus, get a little bit of money here. We land on Minmus, we get a little bit of money here. We return home, we get a whole bunch of money here, right? And we want to be able to do this, the science from it, the reputation that we gain from it, as well as just the general science we'll be getting while we're down on the surface as well. So we're going to go ahead and accept this. And we do not get any type of advance or anything like that. That's not something we'll get. But what we will be getting is a huge advance from RPOs. And I think I'm actually going to wait until after the mission to fully process this, because some RPOs maybe need a little bit more time. But I think some of these I'm going to have to process. I mean, I can't go without money after this launch. It's a very expensive launch. But the purpose of this joint mission was to raise money for my organization to unlock buildings, because we're going to start sending Kerbals to space pretty soon. And when we do that, they are going to be kind of handicapped unless my astronaut complex is upgraded and my research and development center is upgraded, and those two things together are nearly $1 million. So it's very expensive. So I needed to raise some cash, and that's what the purpose of this mission is. So let's go through the craft that we're going to be sending to Minmus. Okay, this is my Minmus launch vehicle, and now that I've got this new science, this new double C accelerometer, I'm going to go ahead and go into this. I'm going to place this unit on the craft somewhere. It doesn't need to be anywhere specific, but I think I'm actually going to place it right here in the antenna, like right up next to this thing, like right about. I actually wanted to place it sitting up, but it doesn't look like it goes that way, so we're going to put it right here. Now this experiment, it's a very long experiment, right? We are going to have this wired through the core of the craft, and we're gonna be installing some sensors on the bottom of our landing legs. Okay, these little sensors kind of built into this. They're very sensitive landing feet. On any other type of place to land, we probably wouldn't be able to do this. The weight and everything would just destroy these sensors. But Minmus is incredibly weak on gravity, and so everything is a lot lighter there. And I think we believe our sensors can survive. So this accelerometer is going to be kind of tied to the sensors that are being embedded into the feet here. So let me give you a tour of our vessel here, because this is a very complicated thing. It's a huge joint venture, as you're going to see in a second. There's a lot of RPOs that are invested in this, and I'm going to go through each and every one of them. I'm not going to tell you what all of them are doing, but I will tell you what each one of them is bringing to the table in terms of which experiments that they have. And I might tell you just a little bit about what they're studying for, but I'm keeping a lot of that stuff proprietary because they would like to keep it proprietary. So let's start down here at the bottom. We got the new RK7 Kodiak liquid fuel engines. These engines are a little bit better than what we've been using before, and we're going to use them here. They do not have gimbling, so in the center I have the swivel. This is going to give me a little bit more control over this thing as it goes up. These engines are nifty because they contain a higher amount of thrust than the Reliant has. They kind of functionally work the same as the Reliant, but the cool thing about this one, what I really like about the Kodiak, is that its specific impulse in atmosphere is a little bit higher. So the Reliant has a specific engine ISP of 265 in atmosphere, and this one is a 285. So it's more efficient and it has more thrust. Ultimately, very good. In addition to that, though, it also comes with this little cool shroud. So I can like set the variant. It looks like this if you don't have the shroud. It's kind of cool. But I'm going to put the white shroud on it because I like it. This one here, yeah. I think it looks cool. So we're gonna have the shroud. So these are gonna serve as sort of a replacement for the solid rocket boosters we would normally have. They're gonna expend themselves, probably gonna get us to the point where we can leave the atmosphere with just this outer stage. But I will be turning on the swivel really early in the launch just to get ourselves kind of aligned the way I want, and then I'll be shutting down the swivel until I need it again. When we get into space, we should be able to reach orbit with this whole core intact. And I'm hoping to launch this craft in the inclination that is very close to Minmus already, so that I don't need to spend delta V to correct my inclination around Kerbin. So we're gonna try to angle ourselves to where our orbit, when we leave Kerbin, and when we finally get ourselves into orbit, our inclination is already about where we need to be. And for that, we need to understand the direction that we need to go, and we also need to understand the timing in which we need to launch, because knowing the direction isn't enough. If you don't start at the right time, you're still not gonna be right on. So we're gonna try doing that for this launch here too. Now, I'm going to start at the top here. I think I'll work our way down. So at the top, I've kind of walked you guys through this before, but we're going to go in detail now because this is the Minmus 1 mission. Notice at the top it says #CP. This is a joint venture, but it's my joint venture. I'm not going to do very many of these, but because I needed to raise funds, I did a huge fundraising campaign. And all of the science experiments that you're going to see on this vessel have been auctioned off. RPOs went ahead and kind of bid up a lot of these things. Some of them are significantly more expensive than they cost to place on the vessel, and that is great because, again, I need all the money I can to. It's over $750,000 just to get it to where our Kerbals can do an EVA off of Kerbin. All right, like doing an EVA in space, I need $750,000 just to do that. Okay, so I need to raise money. So this is what we've got going on here. There are 6 antennas at the top. not all of them are actually going to be used. Some of my antenna people dropped or haven't responded. That's okay. That's fine. But the ones that wanted an antenna can get it, okay? We have 2 cameras. Both of these were auctioned off. I believe it was for about $20K each. One of the cameras was won by DSSC. You can see their flag here. They are a major sponsor for this mission. And they're actually working in collaboration with SSF, which is the sort of space front right here, which is also a subsidiary to KTC, which has their logo up here on the probe core. We'll talk about that in a second. And so they're kind of working in collaboration there to help the costs, but this camera was $20,000, and then CMTR is also with a camera, and that's another $20,000. CMTR is another major sponsor that we have for this mission. They're working in collaboration with a joint venture they call the Joint Launch Alliance, JLA. So there's like several companies that are just working with other companies and kind of getting together. We're going to introduce a system that makes that even more dynamic, even more interesting, and a little bit more balanced in the future. So keep that in mind. There's going to be some tweaks done to the joint venture system for sure. But as it is right now, they're all working together, and it's all really nice and dandy for them. Then we have my seismic accelerometer. It's here. Good. Okay, my seismic data, when I do this experiment, it's going to take 14 days and 4 hours to run this, right? So every time we land on the surface of Minmus, we're going to be staying landed for 14 days, 2 weeks. And while we're landed running this experiment, we're also running all the other stuff we can. And then we're running other experiments, like we're running other launches and stuff too. My agency's not going to just sit there for 2 weeks and do nothing. It's going to be this ongoing mission, okay? But we need to stay there for 2 weeks now because of this experiment, which is going to be really nice for our science. We've got basic instrumentation and sensor packages. A lot of these RPOs kind of got together to share the costs of the sensors and all that kind of stuff. If anybody wants their data to be proprietary and not share it with anyone else, they need to have purchased an antenna. And then their data gets sent over their own frequency and with their own antenna, right? And then they get to go and have their data be private, okay? Whatever it is they're studying, they needed to have an antenna. If any of you RPOs out there would like to buy one of these antennas after seeing this video, please contact me, and we'll just assign you the spare ones. I believe there are 2 of these antennas now are available. So if you didn't get one before and you'd like to, you can now. So as we come down, you're going to notice there's multiple probe cores here. We've got 3 probe cores. This is to get a lot of storage for data. There are 3 HECS probe cores that are there for their reaction wheels, which is nice, but they're also there because we want to have a variety of different experiments, and we want to have a lot of data. So we have a total of 24 megabytes of storage space on board, which is going to be nice. We can hopefully run all of our experiments at the same time and not have to necessarily worry about bandwidth limitations. By the time all the experiments are done running, the storage will hopefully not be full, and then it can continue to transmit until we get to someplace else that needs to collect data. So hopefully that's a thing. We have 2 drogue chutes. These are mostly to help us slow down a little bit better. Once we get into Kerbin here, so we can open up our main chutes. And we have 2 of the main chutes as well, okay? Then we have this interesting little, I don't know, I'm not sure what to call it. I've been kind of calling it the solar collar, but I don't know if that's exactly like a good representation of what it is. But this is my solar collar, okay? There's just flat panels that are pointed up, and then as we travel through space, to reach our destination, we're going to want to point this towards the sun. So this will be the only thing that the sun can see, right? As we come down underneath the collar, we have 8 micro-goo containment units. And these are owned by, again, every single one of these was auctioned off, and the people who won the auctions, they get the goo canisters. All of the RPOs have worked with me in direct messaging to tell me what is in their canister, what are they studying, what are they looking to get. Some of these will be opened throughout the course. Some of these will remain closed throughout the course of the trip based on what they've told me they wanted. There are some people who are even changing the pressurization inside their canister from a pressurized canister, and then they're going to be in a controlled way relieving the pressure inside the canister later after they have their data. All that kind of stuff is totally possible, but you have to remember that these types of experiments, these are physical experiments, you will not get hardly any of the knowledge that you need unless you recover these. So These have to be recovered. Hopefully we will bring them down safe and sound, because these things are very expensive. Some of these goo canisters went for as high as $10,000. Now, we have the Science Junior. This one's mine. I'm using this one. These ones are all belonging to other people. This one's mine. This has, I believe, 4 slots in it for different biomes and stuff, so I can get physical examples and stuff here for this as well. So we'll go ahead and close that up. And then underneath that, we have a service bay, which inside contains a battery core, just some extra storage. We have some internal sensors in here, just so they can see the conditions of the samples as they go. 2 of the sample cans are on the outside of the craft. Each one of those is fastened securely to the outside. It as well as contains its own heat shield to help it with any type of forces that are happening against it. There's not that much ablator, but there's also not that much surface area. It should be all right. Most of the heat is going to be taken by the heat shield directly underneath of the service bay. And the service bay has a slightly higher heat tolerance than most of the other parts, so I'm kind of hoping these 2 things together keep our craft safe. Most of the surface samples here were sold for over $35,000. I think actually the most expensive one was $38,000, and then some of them were $37,000, and I think that's actually the way it was, $38,000 and $37,000. So all 6 of them are sold that way to help raise money for this. Each one of them will contain 1 physical sample, surface sample, and RPOs have designated what kind of experiments they want to run on their samples. Most of the tests that you will do on a surface sample will taint it or destroy it so that another test cannot be run. Likewise, some tests require multiple runs to verify the validity of results, and so you will not have enough to perform more than one type of test. And then there are very few experiments where you don't technically destroy the sample, but you taint it to where you can't do another sample, like, say, for example, a chemical test, and then trying to figure out, other types of composition things. You've already tainted it with a chemical test. However, some RPOs have decided that they're okay with having tainted samples if they can at least put them on display somewhere, like in a museum or in their headquarters or something. They want to have it for themselves. So each one of these ore canisters has a single experiment in there, or I should say a surface sample that's worth at least 1 experiment. Speaking of 1 experiment, KRS has decided that they will allow us to place their magnetometer boom on the craft with us. So we have the magnetometer boom kind of nested in here in this little central area, this little core. I would like to actually feed it into that core just a little bit more. So we've sort of fitted their experiment into our core here. And this is the magnetometer boom. This thing is a long experiment too, not just because it, extends a long way out at us. Hi. I didn't put the camera in the right spot there. I was hoping to put that right where it needed to be. In any case, magnetometer boom to study magnetic fields and all that kind of stuff. We're going to be taking this with us as well. And as we travel through space, we are going to be having this extended as well. So lots of stuff happening with lots of different advanced science discoveries. KRS has decided to not really donate per se. The data that they're getting is proprietary, so they're not sharing it, but it is there, and they do have an antenna so that they can transmit that securely as well. All right, so next, let's take a look at all these flags. You might be seeing all these colors and wondering what the heck's going on. So this is DSSC's flag. This is ComNet Trails. They have the biggest flags because they're the biggest spenders. Makes sense. They're working with joint ventures, so they're kind of using other people's money too, right? We have Superior Oil here. This is Project Moon. We just launched their Moon satellite network. That is circularized now, by the way. We also have SSF. This is a subsidiary of KTC. And we also have Hexative Incorporated here. Then we have the flag for OSE. This is Outer System Enterprises, I believe. Yeah, that's what this says on their flag there. We have EKLC. This is the Extra Carbon Logistics Company. Then we have Blue Universal. And then we have IXAT Chemistry and Materials. You guys have seen those guys before. So these are the major sponsors for this mission. These are the major RPOs that have come together and said, dude, we want to be first to Minmus. And we want to help you fund we want to get Kerbals to space, and we can't do it effectively without money, right? So this is pretty nice. Now, KTC is also up here, and they are providing communications for this vessel only and the entirety of this mission only for free. They're offering free communications for all of us to do the thing we need to do. So they're going to be doing that. So their logo is up here too, because that's a way of sponsoring as well, right? Okay, so as we come down here, you'll notice this little thing here. This is a surface scanning module. This is DSSC's surface scanning module, and as we land, they are going to be scanning the surface around the craft and immediately underneath it to get a good, accurate view of what is under there. And then when we take our surface samples, they can have a more educated knowledge as to what is under there at the time, and then they can take the sample that they want. So this is going to give them an advantage of having a sample as long as we are over top of it, and I'll know. So I'll, as a game master, I'll know what we're over top of here. But they have their pick of what kind of resource they want for their surface sample because they can physically see what it is before they take the sample. So this is a good advantage for them to have it because it's right there. However, we're probably going to be landing 3 times on Minmus. If we land 4 times, great, but I'm going to prioritize having enough Delta V to safely get back to Kerbin because we have a lot of physical samples we need to get back. But if we can land 4 times, great. And so I also have 4 of these really tiny decouplers mounted on the side here above the drills. And they all have just this 1 force percent. And all we're going to do is when we land, we're going to decouple one of these little decouplers, and it's going to drop it on the ground. And that's in just a little bit of a marker, right? So that the surface scanner data that DSCC has, they'll be able to reference that with where the marker is, and then they have a physical representation of where that is. So if we, for some reason, somehow we land on gold, for example, they'll not only be the only ones that know it, but they'll also have a marker that is down underneath there. It pays to have these little things on there, doesn't it? Yeah. And they have a patent on this. This is why they're able to use it. Then we have the drill-o-matic excavator, right? Both of these drills, one of them is tuned for water. The other is tuned for ore, which is another way of just saying dirt as far as I'm concerned. I have the resource accumulation in this turned off so that we don't fill this up. It's going to make my craft really unbalanced. Instead, the ore should go up into one of these. And this is all being gathered pretty much in roleplay, of course, because the drills don't necessarily function without Kerbals. They don't necessarily function very optimally without Kerbals. We're only getting really small amounts of ore for our samples, so it won't be very hard to do. And on top of that, we're going to be sitting in the same spot for 14 days. So even if it's a really slow accumulation, we're totally going to be able to do it. Our surface samples and stuff, I am going to be collecting them throughout the flight, not just at the very last stop. And that's just to make sure I don't get any surprises at my last stop by just all of a sudden having a bunch of ore and going, oh, well, I don't have the Delta V to get home now, right? So I want to be able to get home safely. So there we go. That's Minmus 1. That's our joint venture. And I'm getting paid a boatload of cash for this. I believe the total, I have to do the math on this. I really don't have the math. Tell you what, I'll do the math after recording, and I'll put the number right here for you, okay? I believe, if I had to guess right now, I've raised about $500,000 from this mission. If I'm wrong, it'll say it right here, and then you can all laugh at me. Okay, so this is the mission. This is what we've got, and I'm pretty excited about it. I'm really hoping we can do this right. So let's go ahead and launch this thing, get it up where we need it to go, and send it off to Minmus. What do you think? Let's go. So one of the things I wish I had done with this particular launch is launched it in the plane of Minmus. So you can see how Minmus is inclined. It's about 6 degrees up. And so what you can do, and what I will eventually do later when near the end of the video when I'm launching another set of satellites, is I'm going to be launching this thing in the inclination of Minmus. You time your launch to where, in this case, we're going to time it to where our spacecraft is leaving the launch pad really close to the ascending node, where that crosses the equator like that. And so that will get us, if we go 6 degrees north from there, we'll be able to get ourselves into orbit already in the inclination that Minmus is, so we won't have to adjust. In this case, though, I didn't do that. I wish I had, and we're going to need to spend about 240 or so, I forget what it is, meters per second of delta V just to get ourselves in the inclination of this. Now, there's another way to do this, which kind of requires a little bit of timing, and that is you don't really need to correct your inclination if you are able to make your transfer on one of the nodes. So either ascending or descending, you can, if you make your transfer near one of those nodes, you don't need to correct your inclination because Minmus is going to be lining right up with you anyway on the other side. I don't have that for this particular launch here, so it's a little bit wasteful, but I've over-engineered this craft specifically so that we can land on the surface of Minmus roughly 3 times. I want to land in at least 3 biomes here. I promised these RPOs we'd get lots of different science, lots of different exposure to different biomes and conditions, and that's what we're going to do here. I'm hoping that the first landing is actually on this stage that's underneath where our landing legs are. So the first landing is going to take place on that engine. Minmus is very easy to land on, and then we will lift off, get ourselves up really high, and at that point we'll most likely run out of fuel. We will then decouple this bottom stage, let it crash on Minmus, which will deorbit it, remove the space junk, and our future landings at that point will be with the legs, and that's where we can play around with where we're going to land and how many times. Again, I want to land at least 3 times, possibly 4. Somebody wanted to go in a high up biome. There's people who didn't care, so we're going to get, probably try to get ourselves near the border of some of these biomes, and then maybe on the poles as well. Some people wanted to be on the poles. There is a problem with KTC's network here, though, and that is that their satellites are not tuned to reach far enough. It's very close, but they can't quite do it. Minmus is 46.5 million meters away from Kerbin, and the range on these dishes is about 20 million meters. If you get them in perfect alignment to where, I've got about 1 million meters on the Kerbin side of Minmus with one of the satellites, and then you get one of those other ones that are really high up, like 2 million meters or whatever up, you can get them and maybe they can get a little bit of a connection, but most of the time we are not going to get a connection with Minmus with these satellites. So as a result of that, I have to contact KTC and try to figure out a solution to this, and we figured out a solution to it. That solution, though, is going to take some time. So while we're devising that plan and while we're launching our solution, which is what we're going to cover next, I'm going to have this craft in orbit of Kerbin, and it's going to be kind of spread out into. I don't want to lose fuel, right? Minmus is still the mission, but this magnetometer boom can get science in multiple biomes, including this inner radiation belt. So I'm going to get just a little bit of that with this while it orbits around Kerbin, and that is going to set us up for science ongoing while we solve the problem. So let's talk about the problem and how we're going to solve it. Okay, so obviously KTC has a bit of a problem on their hands since they have this exclusivity for communications in Minmus, and they have their network over there already, but it doesn't work, right? It's not connecting. So they weren't quite ready for this to deploy, but they're willing to give it a shot. This is their prototype version of the HG5 model satellite. It is about 158% larger. It's going to consume more power, but it has a almost 50 million meter range, which is going to be enough to get the 46.5 million meters that it is to Minmus. So we simply need a dish that can reach all the way. So 2 of these are going to be sent in orbit of Minmus, and 2 of these are going to be in orbit of Kerbin. This launch is costing KTC another $100,000. So they are heavily invested now in getting communications for everybody. The other thing about this, though, is that part of this launch is subsidized with tax money. We realize that this is for the betterment of all Kerbals, and we've subsidized a small portion of the launch. A little bit around 10% of it is subsidized by tax dollars. As a result, we have a little bit of a rule that if you do take tax money, your mission has to be for public good, not for private good. And as a result of that, by taking the tax money to help pay for this, KTC has essentially agreed to take down their exclusivity clause. So they will not be able to, or I should say, we are no longer exclusively allowing the only relay around Minmus to be KTC. Other RPOs can go ahead and do it if they'd like to. You have to keep this in mind, though, that this experimental design for the HD5 is only available to KTC because of their experience with telecommunications. So you can't just simply do this yourself. And on top of that, you are still going to be dependent on their network because their satellites is the only one that can reach. So while they don't have an exclusivity clause at the moment because of technological limitations, they are still going to be the only one that can actually communicate fully with Minmus at this time. Now, when we get other dishes and stuff, of course, that changes. Depending on who owns the dishes, of course, that can change. So anyway, TelecomSat, this is the Mark II XR version. And mostly they're allowed to do this because of their knowledge and also from a really lucky roll. We do dice rolls and stuff. It's publicly available on the Discord server. And, you know, we always reference those whenever we refer to a launch or somebody being able to do something. We'll usually refer to those as a supporter for their success in doing it. Okay, so I'm ready to launch this. Let's get this up again. 2 of these are going high above Kerbin, and 2 of these are going above Minmus to help relay for the relays. And we're going to try to launch this rocket in the inclination of Minmus so that we don't have to spend a lot of delta V correcting the inclination. So wish me luck. Here we go. Oh, it actually won't let me launch, of course. Yeah, not enough funds, right? Because I'm pretty much drained. I've got like 18 grand in my account. But like I said, this is a $100,000 launch. They have paid for it, so I'm going to add those funds to my account, and then we can go. All right, we're here on the launch pad, and what we want to do is we're going to go to the map view. First, we're going to get rid of all the noise. There we go. So we're left without the relays displaying. Second, we're going to select Minmus. And we want to figure out when to launch and what angle. So to do that, I'm going to have, I got that yellow line, right? And that's going to tell me, that tells me where Minmus's orbit is. Now, we have also some satellites that are in an equatorial orbit already. However, we can also use the moon to figure it out too. So if because the moon is at 0. So if I look around here, you can see that the moon's orbit is crossing right about there. Right there. So what we were hoping to do is go on the exact opposite side of this. So because we're already on this side. So I'm looking at orbits now. And what we're hoping to do is to be right about there. So if we zoom in, I want my craft to be right about here when we launch. And then we're going to go in that direction. You can see the yellow line goes up that way. We're going to go in that direction, or north, or about 6.5-ish degrees, 6 degrees to the north. So let's time accelerate here. And we're going to get ourselves, it doesn't have to be perfect, because we can, of course, correct it later. But we need to get it, it's, you know, close. All right, so this is close. Double check really quick. Yeah, we can go, I think, just a little bit more, but this is pretty much right on. So, we might have a little bit of deviation anyway for not lifting off perfectly. So let's go SAS. Remember, we don't have any control with the Kodiaks, so we're gonna angle, but we're not gonna have the perfect launch until we activate the swivel and then can fix it. So here we go. All the Kodiaks are lifting us up. We're going to angle ourselves ever so slightly to the east. And we're hoping that we go just a little bit to the north. So we are doing that. I don't want to go too far to the north. There we go. I think this is pretty good so far. Not bad. We may not need the swivel to correct this. I'm having a hard time controlling it right now. And that usually happens because we got a good velocity, so it's harder and harder to make changes once you have higher velocity. But this seems to be working pretty good. Without the center swivel, our ascent is very controlled. We're not going up too quickly. So max Q isn't going to be that big of an issue. We don't necessarily need to throttle down. So I like this very much. This is looking pretty good. We're going to go ahead and pop the swivel here. And go. Turn the swivel on. This gives us even more control and sets us up with acceleration for decoupling in 3, 2, 1, go. Perfect separation. Looks really nice. All right, now we're gonna have to start angling ourselves down here. We don't want to go too fast. We do have quite a lot of stresses still. We're not out of the we're out of the thickest part of the atmosphere at the moment, but we still have significant atmosphere to contend with at the moment. Especially with our speed, we probably don't want to get ourselves any faster than, like, say, 1,000 here. We should start seeing heat about 1,100. Might even be more than that now that we're getting up there, but this is looking okay. We're about 7 degrees. We want to be around 6, a little over 6. So everything seems pretty nominal at this point. We're going to nose ourselves down around here, and you can see the target indicator on the nav ball. This is sort of our target. This is where we want to be to get in the right inclination to our target with Minmus, right? This is kind of where we want to hang out. So we're up around 50K now, and we shouldn't have any issues with heat at 50K, not unless we're going like 2K meters per second. So we shouldn't have anything to worry about now. We can pretty much nose down. We don't want to go down to the horizon too fast, but I think this is a pretty good pace. And we're about ready to separate this final area here. This does have parachutes on it. We will be able to recover this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have second stage cutoff. And off we go. So we are now on our way with the Terrier. Not necessarily the best engine to have in atmosphere, but it's barely any atmosphere at this point, so no big deal. And at 65, pretty sure we can go ahead and extend one of these. Get ourselves to just make sure that we're not going to lose connection. Now we have about 42 seconds, it says, until we reach apoapsis. That's not good. We're going to angle it up just a little bit with our nose. And again, we want to try to keep, as much as we can, we want to keep around 6 degrees. We're exiting the atmosphere now. It says re-entry is in 60 seconds, which is not great. We want to angle our nose up just a little bit more. Eventually, I want to see this number start to go back up. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen. We may not be high enough. I may have gone a little bit, you know, like with the thrust to weight ratio we have on this, I needed a little bit more time to burn. So I should have gone higher. So I know it's not efficient, but I'm going to angle this nose up a little bit in hopes that I can get this to stall. But it might not be possible. I want to go up faster than I'm going out, if I can. I need this to slow down. We're at 10.5 seconds. Angling it up. Again, this isn't the most efficient way to do it, but I need to make sure that I consistently go up and I'm not falling down. Because once I start falling down, I will not be able to stop it. All right, so we're at 6.5 seconds. You can see how it's slowly correcting itself. It's definitely not progressing down with actual seconds here, and eventually it's gonna start counting up right about now, hopefully. There it is. 6 seconds, very good. So that's what we're hoping for. I wanna see time to apoapsis go up. Now we're burning a little extra fuel that we shouldn't have had to burn, but this is ultimately gonna mean getting to orbit, and that's what mostly matters. If I start seeing this climb faster, I can start nosing down just a little bit more. Become just a little bit more efficient here. And it's gonna get to the point where I can slam the horizon and it won't matter. Pretty close anyway. We have a 5.5 degrees inclination here. We're gonna just a little bit more. There we go. I think we're pretty much at that stage where I can just kind of encroach on my periapsis, or sorry, my prograde vector just a little bit more. We go. Still lots of fuel left in this stage, but remember, this stage is supposed to correct our inclination, and that's kind of it. And if it doesn't have to do that, then it can be used to get us even further out towards Minmus. All right, we can definitely slam the horizon now, so let's go ahead and do that. Keep it on the prograde vector. Yeah, piece of cake. Okay, that was a close one, but we managed to get ourselves into orbit, so that feels good. Now it's just a matter of, yep, there's the camera doing its thing. And we can actually go ahead and slow this down now, like way down. We don't need to, we can actually wait now. So our apoapsis is up to 83. We have over 5 minutes until we reach it now, so we can absolutely just kind of chill for a second. And we're going to drift out just a little bit more, get over to around, say 83.5. Up here. You want to go about 83.5-ish. Yeah, right around here. This gives us over a minute, actually, till apoapsis, so we actually have a little bit more time than I thought. Here we go. So now we're 10 seconds to apo. That's pretty good. Let's go ahead and turn the thruster back on. And we're just going to go real controlled until this thing says 0, and then we're going to punch it. When my mouse is over top of this, I can't control the vessel, and that's why I didn't hit it right away, because my mouse was over top of this window, and I can't do anything when that happens. It's something I forgot about there. Okay, so we're pretty much circularized here. We have a 5.6 degrees as our inclination. Let's go ahead and take a look at the map really quick and see how close we are to Minmus's orbit. You can see we ended up getting ourselves in orbit at just 0.7 degrees off, which is pretty consistent with our wishes of being around 6.2, 6.3-ish. 0.7 would have gotten us to that point. So this is still a pretty good orbit, and it worked out pretty well. We don't really need to correct this to get to communication with Minmus, but I'm going to do it anyway just because, again, these are satellites that are supposed to be orbiting, and they need to be really far out. And so the more degrees off I am here, the actual further distance they're going to have to travel over here. And I don't really want to deal with that. So we're going to go to the ascending node here, make another maneuver. And we are going to look at, on the ascending node, I would like to descend. And we are going to do that until it's down about, let's say, wait, did it already switch? I think it already switched. It did. Okay. I'm just being silly. 0.7, 0.3, 0.3. This is a very quick burn. Yeah, we don't need a whole lot of help here at all. 0. Okay, so about 27 meters per second, which is nothing. That's pretty good. That's gonna be our next burn. That's 5 seconds with our current engine and everything. And then from there, what we can do is this stage can get us most of the way. It's gonna have another, it's gonna have another 600 meters per second in it. So we're gonna use this to accelerate us most of the way to Minmus's orbit. And 2 of these satellites are gonna end up being, I don't know, like 2 of the satellites can probably end up being around this area. They don't have to be that far out. I'm thinking maybe around 3 million or so, maybe 4 million. And then the rest of them are, of course, going to Minmus. I was thinking about having these satellites actually be out this way, but the reason why I'm opting not to do that is because if I was to do that, it creates a situation where there's not a straight line. So I'm going to have 2 satellites, and it's going to take me weeks to get them to be on opposite ends of each other the further out I am, and that's not great for our mission plans. I mean, I guess it's okay. Minmus 1, our joint mission, is currently, chilling, trying to get magnetometer data, so it's not like it's wasting time. But I would like it to, get these things going. So what I'm thinking is, if I get these 2 satellites, these 2 really big ones, if I get them in this area, then it's more consistently a straight line, less chances of that problem being the case. But we're going to get them exactly on opposite ends of each other so that there's always one of them at least on the near side of Minmus, wherever Minmus is. And then the same thing will be happening near Minmus with the other 2. So I'm thinking, like, you can see how far out this one is. That's 2.7 million meters. You know, that's just all that is, 2.7. So if I feel like if I get around like maybe, you know, here around like say 4.5, 5 million, that's getting close to the moon, but not really. But it's going to allow me to be more centrally located around Minmus. And you can see Minmus's orbit is a little bit, not perfectly circular. It's a little bit further away over here than it is over here. At least that's what it looks like anyway. But in any case, yeah, that's the plan. So we have 38 minutes till this maneuver. Just going to go ahead and time accelerate us over there to it. I believe alarm clock will stop me when we get really close, so I shouldn't overshoot it. And then we've got lots of solar panels on these dishes, so I don't really need to worry about the orientation of this craft either. It's very interesting to me that this maneuver node was so far away. Like, I almost had to go completely in orbit in order to get to it, which is very weird. I wonder why that is. I almost had to go at a complete orbit. Probably would have been easier to pick the other node, I guess. Right, so now that's the alarm clock. I need to be very careful here to not overshoot. There we go. Let's get on the maneuver, and we're just gonna go like this. And that should do it, pretty much. So let's double check our ascending node here. It's 0. Yeah, so we're exactly in the right inclination for Minmus, which is 6 degrees. Okay, I thought it was like 6.2, but 6 degrees, that's where we want to be. So the next thing to do is just to get our orbits out. And I think 2 of these to... do I detach them now? No, I don't think I do. No, I don't. I need to get this thing on its way to Minmus. Yeah, I think the this part here is going to take the other 2 to Minmus, but I think the first 2 I will detach them after this whole area here, this whole stage here expends itself. So let's go prograde really quick, and I think we'll probably start the burn, you know, yeah, like this towards Minmus, and so we'll go about like that direction. I think that's probably good. We go this way, and that will get us an encounter on the back side. I don't want that, so let's go, whoops, wrong way, this way. Just like that. And then I want to go ahead and focus view on Minmus. Let's see where we are here. Let's get ourselves to go a little bit retrograde more. There we go. So we want to be about here. And like out this far is fine, but we want to be out this far, or we want to be on this side. So to do that, we need to leave at this point. That's a 6 minutes, and it's a 3-minute burn time. We will not be able to do the entire thing in this stage, and that's okay. This is going to create a little bit of space junk. We're going to have to make do with that. And it looks to me like this actually gets an encounter with Moon too. Is not quite what I was looking for. Only going about 500 in this direction, though, is not going to be enough. So the idea here, hopefully, is that we go out this much as we can do with this stage. Then we're going to decouple 2 of them, and then those 2 are going to circularize themselves wherever that halfway point that they are is. And then the other 2 are going to get pushed by that next stage to go the rest of the way on this maneuver. So it's kind of a little more complicated than just burning it in the entire time. But let's go ahead and get ourselves right on this. Right about here. Yep. And then we'll time accelerate here near the burn. Again, this is a very long burn, so you know, we're gonna want to, yeah, about 1.5 minutes, a little bit more than 1.5 minutes, honestly. We could probably start it now. I think right now is a great time to start it. So let's go ahead and punch it. And we're a little bit off center, right? We're not right on prograde here. We're getting ourselves out. Well, we will eventually be on prograde because, you know, the orbit's inclined. So eventually these 2 points are going to meet up. But we're not starting the burn directly on prograde is what I mean. And as soon as this stage is done, we'll assess where we are. We may use a little bit of this fuel to push ourselves. I need to check, actually, this stage is not correct. Yeah, this stage is messed up. So I think it's going to be this one, like this, yeah. We do not want these satellites to expend their own fuel supply, at least not yet. And then what we're hoping to do is I'm just going to detach this. I guess I don't need fuel in these. That was a mistake. I shouldn't have had fuel or even engines on these two. That was definitely my mistake. But, you know, it is what it is. So apoapsis now is only 1 million. So these little guys here are going to have to push themselves a lot further. Hopefully they have the fuel to do that. And we are now almost 1.5 million, I think is about where we're going to end up. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and decouple. And we're left with just this stage to carry us as far as it can, which so far it looks like it's only about 360 meters per second. It's not very good. We're going to go up, I think, about 3 million and then stop this. These two will detach, and then this stage will take it the rest of the way. That's probably the best way to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it right about here. Going to save as much fuel as we can, and we're going to decouple these, and then off we go. So we're going to extend these two antennas, and then we're just going to ditch these. So we'll go ahead and decouple like this. That's not at all how that was supposed to be. Hi. What are you doing? Lego. There you go. Get out of here. The HD5s, man. And then we want to decouple this one too. Let's just be a little bit more gentle if we can. Just enough to shake it off. There we go. Okay, so those things are independent now. We should have a lot more fuel to go ahead and do what we want to do. We're just going to create a little bit of separation here. There we go. And that should be enough separation to get us, well, yeah, separated. Now, the problem with this that we're going to run into now is, so those two dishes, right, they're going to end up being in orbit of Kerbin, and they're going to circularize themselves. Now what we're going to end up with is trying to get ourselves, we're almost there, man. We're so close. Can we do this? I know it's not efficient, but can we do this still? We're right on the maneuver node. I'm thinking we could probably do this. I'm thinking it's actually better to wait. But we have the fuel. That's the thing. We have the fuel to do this. Oh, we're not close at all. Stop. This isn't where we are. No. This isn't where we are at all. We're here. Yeah, we're definitely here. Okay, so we're going to stop this. And then what we want to do now is grab periaps. We're here in 3 hours. Yep, and we're going to burn again on periaps. Okay, so we're going to got to take more advantage of something called the Oberth Effect. It's I'm not going to explain it very accurately because I'm so distracted and I'm honestly very tired. But essentially, we're going to use the maximum effect of the gravitational pull of the planet we have to fling us most efficiently away from it. We're going to basically hugging the planet and using that gravity to help us. So I'm going to focus view again here. This looks actually pretty good. And now it's 218 instead of 250 something. Yeah, get ourselves about here. 730 seems good. We do want to be out a long ways though. Like we want this to be as far out as we can go, so it's as close to Kerbin as possible. So I'm actually thinking this is probably fine. Yeah. So 213 is all we have to do left. We just have to burn it in 3 hours. We have 437 in this, so that's more than sufficient. We're golden here. So the next thing is to now figure out. We're gonna let those other two satellites just fend for themselves for a second, I think. they should be okay. If the game warns me about battery life on them, we'll go over there and make sure that they're adjusted towards, you know, the solar panels are adjusted toward the sun. But I'm only going to do that if the game warns me about it. So, and I also think we can probably decouple these. I know that creates additional space junk still, but I think we can decouple these just to get rid of that extra, get rid of the extra mass. And then these also have fuel in them. They could burn. These engines could help us too. But if I don't want space junk, then I have to kind of deal with only this engine burning, which for now appears to be something we can do. It doesn't seem like that's going to be a problem. So we'll try to aim for the central piece to eventually crash into Minmus so there's no junk. And then these two are going to do their thing. That's just what we're going to have to do. I could probably get rid of junk also with the heat from these engines. If I just burned them, maybe this will blow up. I don't know. If all comes to worst, I'm not going to do it. But if you're playing this game yourself, one thing you can do is just open up that object thrower that we did before and just, you know, chuck a little thing there. Hey, look, magnetometer report's done. So magnetometer is completely done for the analysis of low Kerbal orbit. That's pretty nice. And now we can adjust Minmus 1 to be, you know, maybe I can stick it in the outer belt for a little while, maybe. We don't want to, I don't want to go too far out, right? Because the more inefficient I am with that, the worse it'll be. And we're already going to be able to get great analysis on the way to Minmus. I mean, it's going to take us longer than 7 days to get there. So the magnetometer boom will have additional biomes on its way to Minmus anyway. And then we're going to spend most of our time in Kerbal space with the inner radiation belt and the outer radiation belt. We're going to be analyzing those biomes on the way back. That way, any degradation that happens from radiation is happening to the craft after we've already successfully completed our mission. All right, so 218 meters per second. And I think we probably want to start at, what, 31 seconds? About here, yep. So here we go. Let's crank it up. We're just going to use that back engine. We're not going to bother with these. We can get more thrust that way, but I'm not going to bother with it. Not unless I have to. So this is 5 million meters. That's about where I wanted those other satellites to be, is right about 5 million meters. So I don't know if I'll be able to get them there, but I hope I can. But that's about where I want it to be with the big relays. And again, in the inclination of orbit, in the inclination of Minmus, right? So those satellites are always kind of lined up as much as they can be. Here we go. We can see the blue line, right? And it's working its way out. So I'm just keeping an eye on the blue line. And eventually that blue line is going to show up over here and things are going to change near Minmus. And that's when I'm going to stop it and do fine tuning. Stop. Gotta be quick. All right, so looking at this, just real light here, real quick, and we are good. Okay, so we are going to Minmus, absolutely. We're going to end up being pretty much right where we want to be. And we're going to take and have this maneuver circularize us. It will take us more fuel to circularize this way because we are farther away from Minmus. I think I did this wrong. Why don't I just do this? Go add maneuver and then circularize. Boom. Right? And then you can see how we're kind of angled here too. I don't really think that's a big deal. But if I wanted to fix that, I could possibly get this to be a little bit more equatorial like this, and it wouldn't be that difficult to do. It looks like it's pretty much spot on doing it this way, and that's going to be 252 meters per second, which is more than we have. So we might want to try making a maneuver instead that allows us to burn ourselves into Minmus. I think that might be the best call here. These little satellites should be able to move themselves quite a bit. So why don't I do this? Why don't we take our prograde vector like this? We're going to go prograde just a little bit more. That's going to bring us closer to Minmus. Just a little bit. right on in there. Stop. Like right on in there, right? 47. Yeah, 22. Beautiful. All right. So with that, what we'll do instead is right about here, we're going to aim down, right? And try to get ourselves a little bit more equatorial. There we go. Okay, good. So this is the next maneuver we'll actually have. And then from there, we'll burn at the periaps. We'll circularize. We're not going to circularize. We're going to go like this. Yep, to make ourselves actually equatorial. About like that. Then go retrograde. Like that. Okay, captured. Good. And then this is 5 degrees. We don't want to do that. So let's go back up. And we want to be about... Well, it doesn't look like I can quite get 0. If I move it, I might be able to. Here we go. And in case you're wondering where I'm looking right here. Inclination, 0.2 degrees. So as I move it this direction, it goes down. And what I'm trying to do is figure out exactly where do I have to be to get this equatorial. And how do I do it? So this is about where I need to be, right here. 0.02 degrees is like nothing. So this is where I want to make this burn, and it's going to get me way out here, which is fine, about 1,000,000 meters out. That's perfect. Then what we'll do is we'll detach out this way, and these satellites can go ahead and circularize themselves, but the center core is still going to have a little bit of power left and a little bit of control left, and so it will then burn retrograde here, which will then bring the periapsis into the planet, and again, we'll crash. And that will take care of the space junk. All right, so there's the plan. You got the plan? Good, I hope you got the plan. So we're gonna extend this antenna and extend this antenna just to give us some extra juice there. And then while we're on our way out, I do want to turn ourselves like this. No, like this. There we go. Get nice coverage, perpetual power, all good. Not the most organized assortment of antennas, is it? Maybe I can retract this one. And now at least looks organized. Yeah, good. All right, there we go. Maybe I can rotate it just a little bit more this way. 32% is fine. When you have this many panels, it's fine. Okay, so that's all there is to it. That's gonna do it for this particular video, I think. We've encountered a problem. We've attempted to get our solutions in order for that problem. These two antennas are going to end up being here. They have more than enough range, about 50 million meters to reach in here. This distance from Kerbal to Minmus is about 46.5 million meters. And these satellites have about 50. So the 2 here and the 2 here will communicate, and they will act as relays for the relays. There you go. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I do appreciate it. You can like the video if you like it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope you'll join me for the next one in the KSP Community Career. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.